Hello, this is Angela with Parkrose Permaculture. Welcome back to my Abundant Food Forest Permaculture Garden Tour 2020. We are going to be entering the second part of my poultry paddock, which is also part of the orchard. So in the last video, we covered where I keep my bees and where the poultry are able to roam a portion of the time. We have a 3 paddock system so that poultry, which are really good at scratching and damaging and disturbing, can be used as a tool where we think of them as a resource. So I rotate them in and out of these 3 sections of the garden. You can see I have gates here. And that way I control how much damage they do and I can let areas rest. I'm currently standing under a very large currant. Black currant. I grow lots of black currants. And we're about to move into this next section of the garden. I have a dwarf mulberry here. The fruit off of this is really small, so I don't get very much. Oh, look at these little ladybug babies. The fruit off of it is really small and it's more for chicken food and as a screen and as a shade. So as we move up over this hops, which hops tend to get aphids, and aphids bring in the ladybugs. So we move through the gate here. Hops is a good chicken-proof plant, by the way. As we enter this part of the garden, I have a fence here, and the duck house is right here, and it actually is made of pallets, and it is part of the fencing. So I had to reduce how much scrounged fencing I found. I built the duck house into the fence. Up here you can see the Negron fig we looked at in the last video, and let's look at my other fig right now. This is my Desert King fig. Desert King is a fig that I grew because I really liked the flavor. They're bright green, huge fig with a pink inside when they're ripe. They produce 1 crop a year. Now, unlike my Negron, which is a more dwarf fig and sets 2 crops a year, the Desert King requires careful pruning to get the 1 crop. You have to know its growth habits. So I did a video on figs. You can click on that and find it. This fig will get 35 feet tall without pruning. Now, the rain has knocked quite a bit of it over. It requires a lot of pruning to keep it in a small garden. Let's look underneath it. In my last video, I talked about what can you grow that the chickens won't destroy in the understory. Most herbaceous plants, most small plants in a chicken run are not going to survive. And here's one that does great. It is one I transplanted in recently, so it's still quite small, but this is a rugosa rose, Rosa rugosa. It is a native rose and it is very thorny, and the chickens don't bother it. You can see the start of a flower back here. It has beautiful, bright, vibrant pink flowers or white flowers. It depends. I got this from Burnt Ridge Nursery, and it has that genetic diversity. You'll get one or the other. This rose sets really big hips that you can make a really nice jelly or syrup out of that are high in vitamin C. So it produces a food crop, and it is something the chickens will not kill. It does need a little bit of sun. Normally these fig branches are not flopped over on top of it. It's just the rain. So there's a view. It's growing in a hugel bed here. So that's one good chicken-proof understory plant in your orchard when you can't grow other normal low-growing guild plants. Next to my Desert King fig, I have Ziziphus jujuba. 2 of them grown in one hole. This is the jujube, also sometimes called jujube. It is native to Asia, and I planted it where I used to have an apricot that I took out. This plant blooms very late. You can see here it is just starting to bud out and produces a crop of small, hard fruit that are yellow and brown that taste like a very dry apple. And when you dry it, it's also called Chinese date, and it tastes like maple syrup. The texture is not the same as a date. It's drier and more papery. I really like it. In Korea, it's often made into a tea where you pour hot water over the dried fruit and drink it. It makes a very sweet, refreshing drink on a cold day. This tree will get quite big. This is a pioneer species. It will sucker, but it means it's very, very hardy and not much bothers it. Can handle that real cold winter, can handle late frost date because of the late flowering. And also a fruit that's hard to buy in the store. Next, I have the biggest tree I have down here besides my fig is my Cox's Orange Pippin apple tree. So this is a tree that I grafted. Folks ask me, how do you know what apples you wanted to grow? I grow all old heirloom apples except for my Honeycrisp. Cox's Orange Pippin is a fantastic dessert apple. It also, as you notice, self-thins very well, tends to drop fruit and only grow fruit in clusters of 1 or 2. Does its own June fruit drop, and I don't have to hand thin it. I went to the One Green World fruit tasting in the fall, which is a great organization. If you can subscribe to them, their newsletter is well worth reading. Great organization to support. But if you live in Oregon, you can come to their fruit tasting, and for a few dollars you can try all kinds of quince and grapes and kiwi and apples and pears. And I made a list of the ones that I liked. And then I came home and I researched what was their pollination group, because not all apples flower at the same time and not all apples can be pollination partners for each other. And then I researched what diseases those varieties got. And from my list of all the ones I enjoyed the flavor of, I pared it down to my 3 favorites: Hudson's Golden Gem, Ashmead's Kernel, and Cox's Orange Pippin. As you can tell, I like a russet apple. So those are the 3 first apple trees that I put in that I grafted. This is a semi-dwarf, so I do need to prune it. My hope was that it would be the biggest apple I have down here. For contrast, next to it, I have a dwarf apple. Hang on, kiddo, I'm making a video. I have a dwarf apple, super dwarf apple here that I put in for my children, and this is a Liberty. And it's 4 years old. And you can see how small it is, versus my Cox's Orange Pippin is 10 years old. And it's quite large. So I wanted an apple that my kids could reach. And they like a good, hard, fleshed red apple. It's not pithy. It has a really firm flesh. And it's a good dessert apple. So this Liberty is in here for them. Now, this apple, because it is on a super dwarfing rootstock, so it stays small where the kids can reach it, its lifespan will not be nearly as long as the Cox's Orange Pippin. The more dwarfing the rootstock, the shorter the lifespan of the tree. Okay, so underneath, remember we just did the rugosa rose as an understory plant you can grow in your orchard where you keep poultry. Another good one is gooseberry. Also, thorny. We have a theme here. Very thorny. Oh, there's a chicken trying to get in my lap. No, baby. So the problem with this is that the chickens will eat the fruit. So you can grow it to have an understory plant, but you won't get a yield off of it. But that's fine. So the purpose for me growing it is to have a yield and of fodder for my chickens, basically. They get the fruit, I don't. But it allows me to grow something green and thriving underneath my fruit trees in an orchard where chickens would otherwise destroy things. So hey, no pecking. I'm not going to pick you up right now. So it also, this is facing full north, so it's behind my gooseberry, and it doesn't get very much sun. So gooseberry is a good one for growing in quite a bit of shade. Pan over here really quickly because I'm getting a low battery light, so hopefully I can finish this video. This is my Honeycrisp apple, which I radically pruned back. This is one of the first trees I put in. I would like to do a video on rehabbing apples. When I first started my orchard, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I pruned it too high. So this is on semi-dwarfing rootstock as well, and I started branching it too high, and wasn't pretty, and the fruit was too high for me to reach. So what I have done is I have taken it back the year before last, pretty radically, and let me just show you what I did. So above the graft, I took it back right here, and I encouraged 2 side shoots, so now it is branching low, and everything will be easy to reach, and it will have the shape I want. A note when you cut it back, you can see the chickens have pecked it. Chickens will peck everything. So it doesn't appear to have damaged the vigor of the tree, but boy, oh boy, if there's something that catches their eye, they'll peck it. You can see another gooseberry planted underneath. I'm sorry, I don't know the names of my gooseberries. I get free cuttings. I basically ask in my garden groups, like, can I come have your prunings off your plant? And that's how I get a lot of my plants for free, swapping or somebody's throwaways that they don't want of their prunings, and then I start them. So I don't know the names of a lot of the varieties of my shrubs. Another thing that will grow underneath your trees in your orchard that is chicken tolerant is mint. This is a Persian mint, quite a nice mint. Pretty kind of ruffly foliage and smaller leaved than a lot of mints. Now, when we're looking at mint, folks will say grow it in your chicken run because it deters rodents and you won't get rats and mice. If you live in the city, you will get rats. I don't care what anybody says. If you keep poultry, they will come. So, I have seen mice and rats like literally cavorting in the mint. So they probably don't like the smell of it, but it is not a magical force field around your chicken coop that will keep the rats and mice out. Good thing chickens eat mice because when they come through the poultry paddock, they get killed. The chickens catch them and eat them. So I don't have a problem with mice. I'm just going to check my poodles are loose, and I just want to make sure they aren't able to get into the orchard. I want to make sure I really close that gate. So as we're looking back through this part of the orchard, it is an area with a little bit of a wider path. So pan over this way and you can see the path. Because I need to get down to my chicken run every day, twice a day, to let the birds out and lock them up. So as we're looking down here, you can see the chicken coop is not that pretty. It is made of free stuff. I'm a big fan of free stuff. Plants are pretty. You can grow them up over structures. So I have a Concord grape that is growing up and over. Concord grapes are a wonderful choice for a grape you can't buy in the store. Just like I don't understand why people would buy Red Delicious apples. I don't understand the green and red grapes in the store. They're terrible. They're made for shippability, not flavor. A Concord grape is just so flavorful. So those live up and over. Hello, Apollo. My poodle is down here hoping he can get in and catch himself a duck. And my poultry are not even remotely afraid of him, which I think is hilarious. So as we look past the chicken coop, which is a great structure to grow things over, I have one more tree to talk about down here. Oh, and one shrub as well. So I have this tree here, which is an Illinois everbearing mulberry. And next to it, I have a silverberry, which is Elaeagnus. I put it in before I had access to any of the gummy berries on the market. So this was the closest I could get. It is in the Elaeagnus genus. It is a nitrogen fixer. The fruit, the flowers, and the leaves are edible for chickens, and it is evergreen. Not nearly as tasty as a gummy berry, but it fruits much later. Next to it is the Illinois everbearing mulberry. This is a tree that will get 65 feet tall, and I pollard it for that reason. Wonderful fruit. You can watch my video on growing Illinois everbearing mulberries here. To keep it in a small garden, it takes frequent pruning. It means lots of biomass. The wood I use for firewood. The leaves and branches I use for mulch. The leaves are also good chicken food, high in protein, although they prefer many other things over it. You can dry it and mix it into their food. So that's a look at this part of the orchard. In the next part, we will be covering the last third of the poultry paddock. So please tune back in tomorrow for that. Please give this video a thumbs up if you got something out of it and you enjoyed it. And consider subscribing to my channel. I hope to put out videos still every day if I possibly can. I get a lot out of it. I really appreciate the opportunity to make the videos and to be able to share about gardening with you all. It really, it feeds me a lot, especially because I can't have folks here taking my classes this summer. So thanks for letting me share my garden with you, and I'll be back soon.